Hello, I'm Esther Githui-Ewart. It's Thursday, October 14th. This is Africa 54.
A closer look at the strain on Mozambique's water and health infrastructure. Canadian mining company Barrick strikes more gold in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And in Nigeria, cryptocurrency trading thrives despite official disapproval.
We begin in Southern Africa, where the International Committee of the Red Cross warns that disease is spreading in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado province. The warnings comes as a displacement crisis caused by escalating violence is putting an enormous strain on water and health infrastructure. David Doyle has the details.
For Medina and other residents in Montepuez, this pond is where they get their water.
This water is for drinking. The water is also good for washing clothes and dishes, but most of the time we collect it for drinking.
Her home is in Mozambique's northern Cabo Delgado province, where an escalation of militant violence has sent hundreds of thousands fleeing their homes. That's put an enormous strain on existing water and health infrastructure, some of which had already been damaged by recurring cyclones and floods. Aid agencies warn that a shortage of safe water, poor sanitation and inadequate medical services are a looming threat for displaced people and the communities where they found refuge. Dominic Stillhart is Director of Operations for the International Committee of the Red Cross.
People from all over the part of this town, with many IDPs, they have to walk up to an hour to fetch water from here. This is the only spring, and you can see it's an unprotected spring. There is washing going on, and you can really see here why, for instance, cholera is such a big issue in this town.
The World Health Organization says there were 3,400 cholera cases in Cabo Delgado at the start of August 2021, compared with 2,200 a year before. Diarrhea has become a major cause of death among children under 5. The situation is exacerbated by the fragile health infrastructure. Around 80% of health centres in the 9 most conflict-affected northern districts of Cabo Delgado are not functioning, according to the ICRC. The organisation says it's working with local authorities to rehabilitate existing water and health infrastructures and to build new ones.
That was David Doyle of Reuters reporting. An Ebola vaccination campaign is underway on Thursday in eastern Congo. The operation began Wednesday, only a few days after the death of a 2-year-old boy raised fears of another major outbreak. The toddler died last week in a clinic in the eastern city of Beni, one of the epicenters of a 2018 to 2020 outbreak, which killed more than 2,000 people and infected about 1,000 more. The World Health Organization says 3 people from the same neighborhood died in September after experiencing Ebola-like symptoms, which include severe vomiting and diarrhea. Further genomic sequencing is needed to determine if the latest case is linked to the previous outbreaks or if it came from a new source. A Canadian gold mining company, Barrick, says its Kibali joint venture in the Democratic Republic of Congo has discovered geological extensions which will prolong the life of the mine until 2040. Olivia Chan has more.
Business could be booming for Barrick Gold after the Canadian gold mining company said it had discovered geological extensions at its Kibali joint venture in Democratic Republic of Congo, prolonging the life of the mine. Chief Executive Mark Bristow said geologists had discovered mineral reserves exceeding those that are depleted annually.
We know what those blocks of rock are going to deliver, and we'll really be able to deliver against our plan. That's the 10-year plan. Now that's made of reserves, so it's the sort of confidence of that estimate. Past that, we call them resources in their different categories. So we're starting to see geological extensions that'll take us that 15-year, but that takes us to 2040.
The mine in Congo's northeast is on track to produce gold at the top end of forecast for the year, Bristol said. Under Congolese rules, miners must return 60% of revenue from mineral sales to the country to fund economic development. Once that has been done and in-country fees paid, Kibali expects to release $500 million. Bristol said the funds will be used to pay down debt, which is accruing interest at 8% annually. We put in, $3.7 billion initially, and we've continued to invest. And we've got to start paying it down. As soon as we've paid it down, so we've agreed we'll start paying dividends and the loan down together. Kibali is 45% owned by Barrick, 45% by AngloGold Ashanti, and 10% by state-owned Sukimo. Bristol said the joint venture plans to double its 10 milliwatt battery bank. We get better bang for our buck by introducing more batteries at this stage. And the company is also working with the government to create an exclusion zone where artisanal mining would be authorized. Subsistence gold mining is widespread around Kibali, but Bristol says it is focused on little veins of gold that the company would never mine. Bristol, who wants more copper assets in Barrick's portfolio, added that it was looking at opportunities in Congo's copper belt in the south.
That was Olivia Chan of Reuters reporting. Using cryptocurrencies in Nigeria is not only discouraged by financial authorities, it can also come with risks. But many Nigerians, like artist Sly Magida, are hooked, and his appetite has only increased. Rosanna Philpott reports.
Using cryptocurrencies in Nigeria is not only discouraged by financial authorities, it can also come with risks. But many Nigerians, like artist Sly Magida, are hooked, and his appetite has only increased. Nigeria's central bank barred local banks from working with cryptocurrencies in February, warning of severe regulatory sanctions and freezing accounts of firms it says are using them. But 27-year-old Magida started relying on cryptocurrency platforms when he could no longer sell his artwork due to lockdowns. Now he can turn his works into digital assets known as non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, that he can still sell.
The Naira is digressing, and we're trying to keep the value of the art. So cryptocurrency currently is going on the right direction, and the world is jumping on it because we're in a digital world, like I said. So crypto is just something good for the arts to move forward. So that's the currency where people don't think that I'm paying too much or I'm paying less.
For people like him, the clampdown has highlighted the benefits of using currencies outside the central bank's control. And Nigeria remains the largest market for cryptocurrency trading platforms like Paxful. Loretta Bala is a crypto enthusiast learning the ropes at the Paxful Educational Center, where people are taught how to trade the coins.
I'm just beginning to realize how late I am joining the crypto market, because this is one thing that has already gone far, but I feel it's still not too late. Crypto is the future. Digital currency is the future. Everything is going digitalized now, and I think it's something we really need to roll with.
Nigerians are turning to crypto for business, to protect their savings as the Naira loses value, and to send payments abroad because it is often hard to obtain U.S. dollars, experts and users told Reuters. Art seller Ebuka Joseph started using cryptocurrency and has not looked back. Today, his clients are all around the world, paying him with crypto and having works of art delivered to them. But in August, the central bank froze the accounts of some crypto users for allegedly sourcing funds from illegal foreign exchange dealers. Magida, though, is undeterred.
We need this cryptocurrency, so we just have to stay away from the restrictions the government just kept. But there are other ways to go about it, and Paxful has been able to help us on that medium with the peer-to-peer.
Clara Frank, VOA News.
Thanks, Clara. Beginning in December, Nigeria will require civil servants to show proof of vaccination against COVID-19 or a negative test for the disease to gain access to their offices, according to a presidential committee. The committee says unvaccinated government workers will need to present a negative test result done within 72 hours before they are granted access to their offices across the country and its embassies abroad. Nigeria has administered some 5 million vaccine doses to its 200 million citizens and is in the midst of deploying millions more doses of Moderna and AstraZeneca shots received through the COVAX vaccine plan for developing countries. Early results of a clinical study suggest that people who received the single-dose Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine may get better protection from a booster shot from either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. A study conducted by the U.S. National Institutes of Health found that those who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine had a more than 7-fold rise in their antibody levels after receiving a Moderna booster, compared with a 3-fold rise in their antibody levels after receiving a Pfizer booster shot. Researchers say those who received a second Johnson & Johnson shot saw only a 4-fold rise in their antibody levels. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has already cleared booster doses of the 2-dose Pfizer vaccine for certain people starting at 6 months after their last shot. Over 70 zoos in the United States are gearing up to inoculate some of their animals against COVID-19 amid a rise in cases. VOA's Veronica Balderas-Iglesias reports on the vaccine's effectiveness for the animals and which species will get the jab first.
9 big cats at the Smithsonian's National Zoo tested presumptive positive for the virus that causes COVID-19 in September. Fortunately, they are now eating and behaving normally after receiving treatment for secondary bacterial infections.
There's not a treatment for COVID itself. So our veterinarians started treating with antibiotics. There were pain meds given and anti-nausea and appetite stimulant.
How the felines got infected is still unknown.
The most likely scenario is that an asymptomatic staff member would have passed this along. It's an airborne virus, and so things do get out around your masks.
Other species, such as primates, are testing positive for COVID-19 in zoos across the U.S. The Washington, D.C. and Baltimore zoos are among those gearing up to use an available experimental COVID vaccine to boost the immunity of their at-risk animals. Cheetah are one of the endangered species that will get vaccinated against COVID-19 before the end of the year at the Maryland Zoo. It should be a smooth process, since many of the animals at this facility are already trained by technicians to receive injections on a routine basis.
Something like a stick at first to just push a little bit on the animal for some pressure, and then they move to something like a needle with a cap on it, and then they'll move up to an actual injection. So there are multiple steps to get them to the point that they're voluntarily training for that procedure.
The pharmaceutical company Zoetis is donating over 11,000 doses of its COVID-19 vaccine to zoos nationwide. The company says the vaccine has proven to be safe in dogs, cats, and minks. But since it hasn't been tested in zoo animals, it's hard to say yet if they'll be protected, particularly against the Delta variant, and for how long.
Giving them 2 doses, you at least reduce the risk of exposure. The groups that receive the experimental vaccine have an obligation to report back to us and the USDA the disposition of those vaccines and what happened to those animals.
On October 7th, a snow leopard that had shown COVID-19 symptoms died at the Great Plains Zoo in South Dakota. A necropsy will determine the cause of death. Given the large number of visitors at zoos nationwide, questions have been raised over whether COVID-19 infections among the animals could pose a public health risk.
Probably not, because the population is small, so the infection will self-extinguish, meaning the animals will recover or they will die. At the end of the clinical trial, if there are infections in unvaccinated zoos and not in vaccinated zoos, we will have some evidence of the potency of the vaccine.
Staffers at the Maryland Zoo are hopeful the vaccine will indeed provide an extra layer of protection against COVID-19, especially for several species which are already listed as endangered.
Losing an animal in a zoo, there's always an impact. They're valuable to the breeding programs, they're valuable to the troop that they're in, the group that they're in, so obviously it would have a big impact on us.
Veronica Valderas Iglesias for VOA News at the Maryland Zoo in Baltimore.
Still to come, United Nations officials warn the U.S.-Haitian migrant crisis may be far from over, as many are stuck south of the border. Stay with us.
Health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
U.S. President Joe Biden is welcoming his first African leader to the White House on Thursday as he hosts talks with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. The White House says the meeting will include discussions on democracy and human rights issues, as well as security, accelerating economic growth, and addressing climate change. Biden and Kenyatta will also talk about the need to bring transparency and accountability to domestic and international financial systems, according to the White House. That is expected to include new revelations about the offshore holdings of Kenyatta and his family. The International Consortium of Investigative Journalists said in recent reports about the Pandora Papers that Kenyatta's family had stowed away about $30 million in offshore wealth. However, there is no evidence that Kenyatta's family stole any state assets. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says time is running out for Iran to return to negotiations in Vienna to revive the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, and that the United States was prepared to consider other options if Iran refused to negotiate in good faith. VOA senior diplomatic correspondent Cindy Sain reports.
Iran was the focus of talks Wednesday at the State Department between Secretary of State Antony Blinken and his counterparts from Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Blinken said that for the past 9 months, the Biden administration has made clear the U.S. would return to full compliance with the Iran nuclear deal if Iran did the same. Now, he says, time is running out.
I'm not going to put a specific date on it, but with every passing day and Iran's refusal to engage in good faith, the runway gets short.
Israeli Foreign Minister Yair Lapid painted a grimmer picture, saying Iran is on the threshold of acquiring nuclear weapons.
If the Iranians don't believe the world is serious about stopping them, they'll race to the bomb. Israel reserves the right to act at any given moment in any way.
Blinken said the U.S. still believes the 2015 Iran nuclear deal is the most effective way to deal with the challenge posed by Iran. But the U.S. is prepared to consider other options if Iran refuses to negotiate. Lapid said those other options were at the core of their talks Wednesday. For months, the U.S., along with other major powers, has sought to salvage the 2015 deal, formerly known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, through a series of indirect talks in Vienna, Austria. But those talks have stalled, and some observers say prospects look even dimmer with the new leadership in Tehran. Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi says Iran's nuclear program is peaceful, and he has slammed U.S. sanctions on Tehran as a new way of waging war. Cindy Sain, VOA News.
UN officials and others warned the Haitian migrant crisis may be far from over, as tens of thousands remain stuck along the routes from South America through Panama and north via Mexico. Dramatic scenes near the U.S.-Mexico border shows U.S. officers rounding up and deporting thousands of Haitians who were trying to cross into the United States. Stefania Corpi reports from along Mexico's border with the United States.
After spending days considering whether to cross the Rio Bravo or Rio Grande, on the night of September 23rd, a number of Haitian families decided to take their chances in the U.S. The darkness and cold water stressed both parents and children. But not everyone wanted to leave the camp on the Mexican side.
It is hell. The children. Mothers have no milk to feed them because there is no food. Mothers have to breastfeed, but there is nothing. There is no shelter, and the sun is so hot.
That morning, law enforcement officers followed migrants by air, water, and land on both sides of the river, trying to dissuade them. Migrants, mostly Haitians, debated whether to stay in Ciudad Acuña, a small northern town in Mexico, or cross the river to the Del Rio, Texas, where they could face deportation back to Haiti. The harsh treatment on both sides of the border provides clear signals that neither country wants the migrants on their soil. Mexico already hosts camps along its border at Reynosa and Tijuana, and does not want more.
We do not want Mexico to become a migrant camp.
After India, Mexico is the world's largest source of people who emigrate, with approximately 11.7 million Mexicans living outside their home country. In the media, the Mexican government wants to portray the nation as one that welcomes asylum seekers. It recently accepted a small number of Afghan refugees, whose arrival received much publicity. But the statistics tell a different story. Critics say the number of refugees it accepts is low, considering its vast territory. Elba Coria is a former director of a migrant research unit at Mexico City's Ibero-American University.
The problem we are seeing, for example, in terms of access to our territory is precisely that people are not allowed that access to request refugee status. This is happening in airports as well as at land routes coming into the country.
The head of the Mexican government's Commission for Refugees, Comar, estimates the number of asylum requests this year will reach the 120,000 mark, up from close to 70,000 in the year 2020. Mackenzie Joseph, a Haitian migrant, explained.
There are many in Tapachula, so the immigration system is difficult. They do not get their papers in time, and you know that you are not working. You have to pay for the lodging, food, so all of these are expenses, and if you're not working, things are going to be difficult.
Latin America has faced an unprecedented influx of Haitians, fueled by COVID, economic hardship, violence, and natural disasters. The camps at Ciudad Acuña del Rio have been dismantled, but it appears the migration crisis is far from over. Stefania Corpi for VOA News, Ciudad Acuña, Mexico.
The immigrant workers at the Goodwin House retirement homes in Northern Virginia come from 68 different countries. When residents learned that the $725 fee to file for citizenship was a deterrent for many staffers, they decided to help the immigrant workers who helped them. VOA's Laura Bowman has our story.
Who was the second United States president?
Oh, John Adams, yes.
Questions like these might stump many American citizens.
One of the most famous conductors on the Underground Railroad.
Harriet Tubman.
But these immigrants pursuing citizenship are determined.
Susan B. Anthony.
Yes, Susan B. Anthony.
And so are the retirement home residents, prepping them to take their citizenship exams. This staffer refers to his tutor as father.
What do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution?
The Bill of Rights. My father asked me a lot of questions. Even the question, some of them is not in the book, but he also asking me and then give me the answer. So I have to keep it in my mind.
The people who live at Goodwin House in Northern Virginia are doing more than just tutoring the migrants who work there. When residents learned that the $725 filing cost for citizenship was prohibitive, They decided to raise money to help the immigrant workers who do so many things for them.
Citizenship for the people who have met all the requirements should not be such an expensive proposition.
In 2018, resident Rita Siebenaler launched the program whereby residents would pay the costs for migrant staffers to file citizenship papers.
So we put out the word, and through a combination of resident donations and staff donations, we had about $40,000 in 2 weeks. It took us a little time to convince staff that this was real and that they should consider it. But after the first few people applied for the citizenship grant and then studied for the exam and got their citizenship, it was just like wildfire.
Hello, Ms. Asen. Good morning to you. Hello, ma'am.
Good morning. How are you?
Maribel Karen Seha is the dining services manager at Goodwin House. Residents paid for her to become a citizen. She's bonded tightly to them.
I come to work not only for the money. I give my 100% and my love to them. You know, I treat each and every one of them as my family.
Goodwin House President Rob Liebrick says the staff members come from 68 different countries and that the elder care industry is becoming increasingly reliant on immigrant workers. Roughly 1 in 4 workers in long-term care facilities is an immigrant, he says.
We're going to be doubling the size of the senior living population in the next 20 years of the 75-year-olds. And at the same time, we have the lowest birth rates in our country that we've ever had. And so we really need to find people to come in and provide hands-on care, support, etc. And that's where the immigrant population is so critical.
I forget when the Civil War started, do you remember?
It was 1861 and 1865.
Nok Uyen was regularly quizzed by residents when she was pursuing citizenship.
They were searching for more information and help me to understand more about the American history and how to become a citizen, not only to pass the citizenship test, but also how to be a good citizen.
What rights do a citizen have?
To vote.
90 immigrant staffers at Goodwin House have engaged in the citizenship grant process, forging friendships with their older teachers along the way.
Which state has the most people?
California.
Okay.
Laurel Bowman, VOA News, Alexandria, Virginia.
Great story there, Laurel. Thank you so much. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, we thank you for watching.